The Linguaverse episode 5 Mirror Neurons and Mimicry. Welcome back to the Linguaverse. Why do we slip into each other's accents without noticing? Why does a baby copy a smile before it knows what happiness is? Why do yawns ripple through a room? And why do crowds chant in unison as if their throats were connected? We are imitators by design. Long before we invent our own words, we mirror the words of others. Long before we argue or debate, we echo tone, rhythm, and gesture. The act of speaking is, in many ways, an act of mimicry. This episode asks, what if language itself is rooted in our capacity to mirror? We will explore mirror neurons, the neural systems that fire both when we act and when we observe others act. We will explore mimicry, the way infants, friends, and cultures echo each other. And we will explore how these processes explain not only how language evolves, but how it manipulates, heals, and spreads. If the last episode introduced the somatic lexicon, the way words live in our bodies, this one asks how those words travel between bodies. How meaning and emotion move like currents, not only through grammar, but through mirroring. Because to understand language, we must understand not only how we speak, but also how we echo. The science of mirroring. Let us begin with the basics. In the early 1990s, neuroscientists in Parma, Italy, studying macaque monkeys, noticed something curious. Electrodes implanted in a monkey's brain showed neurons firing when the monkey grasped a peanut. But those same neurons also fired when the monkey watched a researcher grasp the peanut. This was startling. The monkey was not moving, not acting, yet its brain behaved as though it was. These were called mirror neurons. In humans, evidence suggests similar systems exist. When we see someone wince in pain, our pain-related brain regions activate. When we see someone smile, our own facial muscles twitch towards a smile. When someone yawns, our bodies follow suit. This is the biology of empathy and imitation. But its implications go far beyond sympathy. Mimicry in infancy, consider a newborn. Long before it understands words, it mimics. A parent sticks out their tongue. The infant does too. A parent widens their eyes. The infant echoes. This is not a learned convention. This is neural resonance. The infant's brain fires as though it is performing the act itself. And this is the seed of language. Before semantics, before grammar, there is echo. Babbling is a mimicry of the cadence of caregiver's speech. Gestures are mirrored. Sounds are copied without comprehension. We do not begin with invention. We begin with imitation. The rhythm of mirroring language is not only sound. It is rhythm, timing, and pause. Studies show that when two people converse, their breathing and heart rates synchronize. Their gestures align, their tones harmonize. This is mimicry at the level of rhythm. We know this intuitively. A friend leans forward, we lean forward. They laugh, we laugh. We catch accents in conversation. We adopt slang unconsciously. Language is not static. It is a dance of mirrored signals. The social glue of mimicry. Why do we do this? Because mimicry is social glue. When we echo another's tone or posture, we signal belonging. We say, I am with you, I recognize you, I reflect you. This strengthens bonds, increases trust, and smooths communication. But it also opens the door to manipulation. Just as mimicry binds friends, it can also bind crowds to leaders or followers to dogma. We'll return to that later. Reflection prompt. Think of a time you found yourself unconsciously mirroring someone else. Maybe you slipped into a friend's accent after a night together. Maybe you picked up a coworker's favorite phrase. Maybe you crossed your arms because they did. How did it change the interaction? Did it make you feel closer, more accepted? Did you only notice afterwards? This is mirroring in action, silent, subtle, shaping our lexicons without us even choosing. Activity. Spot the echo. Here's a simple experiment. 1. The next time you talk with a friend or colleague, notice your body. Are you sitting the same way? Leaning at the same time? Matching tone. 2. Try recording yourself in conversation, with permission. Compare it to your solo voice. Do you sound different? Faster, slower, more melodic? 3. Afterwards, jot down one phrase you borrowed without meaning to. You may be surprised by how much of your language is not your own invention, but an echo of someone else's. Link to the Linguaverse. This is where the science of mirroring meets our broader exploration. If mirror neurons allow us to echo actions, and mimicry allows us to echo sounds and tones, then language is born in this resonance. The somatic lexicon is filled not only with our own experiences, but with mirrored experiences. We carry not only our words, but the words of others imprinted through mimicry. The very act of speaking is thus a performance of echoes. Mimicry, as the seed of language. Infants as echo chambers. Imagine a baby cradled in their caregiver's arms. They cannot yet form words. They cannot yet grasp grammar. But what they can do is echo. When the caregiver coos, the baby coos back. When the caregiver opens their mouth, the baby mirrors. When the caregiver babbles nonsense syllables, baba, dada, mama, the baby responds in kind. This is not a coincidence. It is the first stage of language. Before words carry meaning, they carry rhythm. The infant's nervous system resonates with the caregiver's voice, and through mimicry, sound is born into pattern. In this sense, infants are not passive recipients of language. They are active participants in a mirrored dance. They copy, repeat, and adapt long before they comprehend. Babble before meaning. Why do babies babble? Some argue it is motor practice, the vocal cords experimenting with sound, but mirror neuron research suggests something deeper. Babbling is not random. It often reflects the cadence, tone, and musicality of the caregiver's language. A baby raised in an English-speaking household babbles differently from a baby raised in a Mandarin-speaking household. Even before words, the shape of language is mirrored. Babbling is mimicry in embryo. It is a proto-language, a rehearsal stage in which sound precedes semantics. Mimicry and play is another site of linguistic mimicry. Children role-play parents, teachers, and heroes. They copy voices, words, and phrases. This is how lexicons expand, through mimicry embedded in play. A child scolds a teddy bear the way they have been scolded. They comfort a doll with the phrases they have been comforted with. Through play, mimicry rehearses not only language but power dynamics, empathy, and imagination, accents and cadence. Why do we slip into accents when we travel? Why do we pick up the slang of those around us without meaning to? Because mimicry is not a choice. It is a biological reflex. Our bodies are wired to align with others. To mirror is to belong. Accents, dialects, and even speech speed are social signals of group membership. When we unconsciously adopt them, we are saying, I am safe here, I am one of you. But this also means language is a site of vulnerability. To speak differently is to risk exclusion. Mimicry smooths belonging, but non-mimicry can mark difference. Mimicry in ritual and song. Now picture a ritual. A group chanting together. A congregation singing hymns. Protesters are repeating slogans in unison. Here, mimicry transcends individuals. Voices merge into one sound. The nervous systems of participants align, breathing, rhythm, and even heartbeat synchronize. Language here is not informational. It is performative, embodied. The power of the chant is not in the words themselves, but in the collective mirroring of tone and rhythm. This explains why chants, hymns, and songs have been central to human communities for millennia. Mimicry binds. It creates not only shared sound, but shared state. Proto-language and cooperation anthropologists suggest that mimicry was key to the evolution of language. Before complex vocabulary, early humans likely relied on rhythmic vocalizations, calls, and chants. These sounds coordinated hunting, warned of danger, and bound groups together. Mimicry amplified this process. By echoing others' sounds, groups created shared codes. Over time, mimicry became convention, convention became symbol, and symbol became language. We often imagine language emerging from invention. But mimicry suggests another path. Language emerged from resonance. Case example, emotional anchoring. Think of the word mother. A child does not first learn its dictionary meaning, a female parent. They first hear it as a sound anchored to tone, sometimes soft soothing, ma, sometimes sharp scolding, mother, sometimes proud, expansive, that's my mother. The child echoes the sound, not the semantics. They babble mama long before they understand. The emotional tone is mirrored first, meaning comes later. This is mimicry as the seed of language. Words are not learned in isolation. They are echoes of voices we love, fear, trust, or resist. The double edge of mimicry is not always benign. On one side, it is the foundation of belonging, bonding, and empathy. On the other hand, it can be a mechanism of conformity, suppression, and erasure. When a child with a distinct accent is mocked until they mimic the dominant one, mimicry is survival, not choice. When communities suppress minority languages, mimicry is enforced assimilation. Mimicry is thus both seed and shackle. It births language, but can also strip identity. Reflection prompt. Think of a phrase or accent you picked up unconsciously. Did it make you feel closer to someone? Did it help you belong? Or did you feel uncomfortable, as though you were losing a part of yourself? This is mimicry at work, sometimes liberating, sometimes constraining. Activity. Record and reflect. Try this. 1. Record yourself reading a short text alone. 2. Then record yourself reading the same text after spending an hour with a friend or colleague. 3. Compare the two. Notice changes in tone, rhythm, and speed. What you hear is mimicry embedded in voice. A reminder that your lexicon is not only yours, it is a tapestry woven of echoes. Mimicry, then, is not a side effect of language. It is its soil. Infants echo sounds before they speak. Children roleplay before they understand. Adults slip into accents without knowing. Crowds chant into synchrony. But mimicry is not limited to sound. We also mirror emotion in words. In the next part, we'll explore how tone, anger, joy, and shame travel through language, not by definition, but by resonance. Mirroring emotion in words. Picture a toddler hearing the word stop. When a parent shouts it sharply, the child freezes. When the same word is whispered gently with a smile, the child might laugh and keep moving. The dictionary meaning doesn't change, but the body's response does. Tone before meaning. This is because tone carries faster than meaning. We react to the emotional register of speech before we interpret the semantics. The nervous system mirrors the state of the speaker. Tone is not decoration in language. Tone is the carrier wave of language. Emotional registers. We might think of emotional registers as invisible accents layered onto words. Just as dialects reflect geography, emotional registers reflect states of being. Take the phrase, come here. Angry register, sharp voice, contracted body. The listener mirrors vigilance and fear. Loving register, warm voice, open body. The listener mirrors safety and belonging. Playful register, sing-song voice, exaggerated tone. The listener mirrors curiosity and joy. The words are identical, but the body's imprint differs entirely. This is the foundation of the mirror-linguistic hypothesis. Words carry not just meaning, but mirrored emotion, the echo of parental states. This is why children inherit not only words but climates. A child raised in a household where words are delivered with anger will carry a lexicon that tightens the body. Words will be tinged with fear, defense, or hypervigilance. A child raised in warmth will carry a lexicon that softens the body. Words will carry curiosity, creativity, and ease. It is not the dictionary meaning of dinner, bedtime, or homework that shapes the child. It is the emotional register tied to each. The somatic lexicon is seeded by echoes of tone. Emotional mimicry in groups mirroring does not stop at families. It expands into groups. In classrooms, children not only copy teachers' words, they mirror their states. A tense teacher breeds tense students. A calm teacher breeds calm students. In political rallies, crowds mirror leaders. A fearful register spreads fear. A hopeful register spreads expansion. Anger breeds anger. This is why slogans and speeches work, not because of their semantics alone, but because nervous systems echo the emotional register. Personal reflection. Living with the word passive, on occasion in my life, the word passive has hovered like a shadow. I don't remember the first time I heard it, but I remember the register. It wasn't delivered as a neutral observation. It was said with a sigh, with a trace of disappointment. You're too passive. At school, this label stuck. Teachers framed it as if it were a flaw. I didn't raise my hand enough. I didn't argue enough. I didn't assert myself in the ways they valued. The word carried their tone, their posture, their expectation. My nervous system registered it not as feedback, but as inadequacy. The irony is, I wasn't without thought or opinion or presence. I was simply cautious. I observed before I acted. I listened before I spoke. But the register of passive reframed that care as a deficiency. It followed me home, too. In family dynamics, when I chose silence over conflict, it was sometimes praised as composure. At other times, it was criticized as avoidance. The same word, swinging between virtue and vice, always carries a tone that tells me less about the word itself and more about the state of the speaker. Looking back now, I realize how much of my identity was shaped not by the meaning of passive, but by the mirrored emotions tied to it. The shame of teachers, the worry of parents, the occasional relief of someone who saw my calm as steadiness. My body learned to tense at the word before my mind even processed it. It's strange, isn't it? How one word can split into two entirely different experiences. In some contexts, passive meant I wasn't good enough. In others, it meant I was keeping the peace. The word itself was never stable. What mattered was the register, the emotional color, the mirrored state that entered me along with it. In adulthood, I've had to unpick this. To notice when I call myself passive and ask, whose tone am I echoing? Is it my teacher's sigh, my parents' concern? Or is it my own self-reflection, reframed with compassion? These days, I try to hear passive differently, not as failure, but as choice. Sometimes staying still is not a weakness, but wisdom. Sometimes silence is not emptiness, but a pause that makes space for others. And sometimes, yes, passivity can hold me back, but now I can see that without shame. This, to me, is the heart of the somatic lexicon, learning to distinguish between the word itself and the mirrored states that cling to it. To ask not only what it does, but what this word means. How did I learn it? And how does my body carry it still? Cultural emotional accents cultures also carry emotional registers. In some, to be passive is condemned, seen as weakness, a failure to assert. In others, it is praised, seen as composure, a sign of respect or self-mastery. These cultural emotional accents shape how the word is mirrored in bodies. The somatic lexicon of one culture codes passive as shame. Another codes it as dignity. This explains why translation is never neutral. The dictionary moves across languages, but the emotional register often does not. The somatic weight of insults rely entirely on registers. Called passive in a mocking tone, the word becomes a wound. Called passive in a reflective, gentle tone, the word can become counsel. The semantics are fixed, but the somatic charge is shaped by mirroring. This is why words sting differently depending on who says them and how. Our somatic lexicon records not the word alone, but the posture, the face, the tone, the state behind it. Reflection prompt. Think back to your own life. What word do you remember not for its dictionary definition, but for the way it was spoken? Was it passive? Was it crazy, normal, or behaved? What did your body do when you heard it? Did you contract or expand? This is the lexicon as a mirror. Microactivity. Emotional reframing. Try this simple exercise. 1. Choose a word that carries a charge for you, maybe passive. 2. Recall the tone in which it was once spoken to you. Notice how your body responds. 3. Now, say the word aloud in a different register. Whisper it gently. Sing it playfully. Smile as you say it. 4. Notice how your body shifts. The semantics stay the same. The somatic imprint changes. This is proof that emotional registers can be rewritten. Bridge to next part. We've seen that mimicry is not only about sound. It is about emotion. We mirror anger, joy, shame, pride, and those mirrors inscribe themselves into our somatic lexicons. But mimicry has a darker edge. It can be used to bind us, to enforce conformity, to strip individuality. In the next part, we'll explore the dark side of mimicry, how echo becomes obedience, how words become chains, and how collective mirroring can be exploited. The dark side of mimicry, when echo becomes obedience mimicry, is the soil of language, but it is also the soil of conformity. What begins as resonance can become repetition. What begins as a connection can become control. When we mirror without awareness, we risk losing agency. Our voices become echoes, our movements synchronized not by choice, but by compulsion. This is the shadow side of mirror neurons. They do not distinguish between mirroring for empathy and mirroring for obedience. The mechanism is the same. Peer pressure and social proof. Consider the classroom. One child dares to laugh at a teacher's mistake. Another joins. Within seconds, the whole class echoes. This is not just humor. It is social proof, the unspoken rule that we mirror the group to belong. To not mirror is to risk exclusion. In adolescence, this mechanism intensifies. Clothes, slang, music tastes, all transmitted by mimicry. Identity is not only constructed, it is copied. And the cost of non-mimicry can be isolation. The nervous system does not want to be alone. Better to echo, even at the cost of authenticity. Cults of language. This dynamic becomes clearer in cults and closed communities. Members adopt the same phrases, tones, and even cadences of their leaders. They mirror dress, posture, and ritualized speech. Over time, individuality blurs into a collective lexicon. What outsiders call jargon is more than vocabulary. It is a linguistic binding spell. To speak in the same register is to remain in the circle. To speak differently is to risk exile. The nervous system reads this as survival. Mirror or be cut off. And so mimicry sustains control. Propaganda and political rallies show mimicry in its starkest form. One voice chants a slogan, hundreds mirror it back. The words are simple, repetitive, and rhythmic. Yes, we can. Make America great again. Stay home to save lives. Semantics are secondary. The body is primary. Breathing aligns. Heartbeats synchronize. Individual nervous systems entrain to the crowd. In such moments, choice fades. To not chant is to stand out. To chant is to dissolve into the collective. This is not accidental. It is designed. Leaders have always known that mimicry is power. The fragility of resistance. Why is it so hard to resist group mimicry? Because the nervous system reads dissonance as danger. To be out of sync is to risk exclusion. In ancestral terms, exclusion meant death. Belonging meant survival. So even today, our bodies equate mirroring with safety. To resist is not merely intellectual, it is somatic. The heart races, the throat tightens, muscles brace. This is why slogans silence dissent. Not only because they dominate the airwaves, but because they enlist our mirror systems against us. Case example, the conspiracy theorist label, take the phrase conspiracy theorist. Semantically, it should mean one who forms theories about conspiracies. But pragmatically, it is an inversion. It signals ridicule, discredit, and exclusion. When this label is repeated publicly, people mirror the register, the sneer, the dismissal. The nervous system learns. To be called this is to be mocked. Better not to speak up. Through mimicry, the label becomes self-enforcing. Even those who doubt the mainstream narrative hesitate, fearing the mirrored scorn of others. This is mimicry as silencing, a phrase weaponized not for meaning, but for embodied echo. Emotional entrapment mimicry also explains why stigma lingers. If you were labeled lazy, passive, or crazy, the word itself may fade. But the body remembers the mirrored state of those who spoke it. The sigh, the laugh, the frown. Even when you repeat the word yourself, you unconsciously mirror those tones. The insult lives on, carried by your own nervous system. This is the cruelty of mimicry. It installs echoes inside us, long after the voices are gone. Digital echo chambers today. Mimicry has a new home, digital platforms. On social media, phrases trend. Memes repeat. Hashtag synchronize collective voices. We mimic not only our friends, but entire networks. The result is echo chambers, spaces where certain registers are amplified endlessly, while others are silenced. Here, mimicry is no longer face-to-face. It is algorithmically curated. But the mechanism is unchanged. Our nervous systems crave belonging, so we mirror the tone of the tribe. Reflection prompt pause for a moment. Think of a time you found yourself echoing a phrase or opinion, not because you believed it deeply, but because it was the register around you. Did you notice your body tighten as you spoke it? Did you feel relief at belonging? What does this reveal about your lexicon? And whose voices does it carry? Microactivity. Trace the echo, try this. 1. Choose a phrase you've repeated recently, online or offline. 2. Ask, where did I first hear this? Whose tone did I mirror? 3. Say it aloud in different registers. Angry, calm, joyful, ironic. 4. Notice how each register shifts your body. This shows how mimicry embeds registers into our lexicon, and how awareness can loosen their grip. Bridge to next part mimicry is not inherently bad. It bonds, heals, and creates empathy. But without awareness, it enslaves. Echo becomes obedience. In the next part, we'll explore the creative and healing side of mimicry, how mirroring can expand identity, regulate nervous systems, and open pathways for growth. Creative and healing mimicry is often cast as loss, the opposite of originality. We fear becoming parrots, repeating what others say without thought. But what if mimicry is not the enemy of creativity, but its doorway? Reclaiming the echo language itself is mimicry. We all begin by repeating words we did not invent. Our accents, our idioms, even the very scripts of conversation are borrowed. Originality does not emerge in opposition to echo, but through it. The question then is not whether we mimic, but what and how we choose to echo. When mimicry is unconscious, it can imprison us. When mimicry is conscious, it can heal us. The linguistic alchemy of repetition. Every child learns language through repetition. Caregivers say mama, the child repeats. Teachers say, repeat after me. Students echo, but repetition is not only pedagogical. It is therapeutic. When words are echoed in new registers, they take on new meaning. Consider affirmations. To say I am enough may feel hollow the first time. But when repeated aloud in different tones with breath and presence, the word inscribes itself differently in the somatic lexicon. The nervous system mirrors its new register until the body begins to believe it. This is mimicry as alchemy. Repetition transmuting insult into insight, shame into strength. The word weak, take the word weak. Semantically, it means lacking strength, but no one hears it neutrally. As children, many of us first encountered weak as an insult. On the playground, don't be weak. In sports, you're too weak. The tone is sharp, mocking, dismissive. The somatic lexicon recorded contraction. Shoulders slumped, chest caved. The body mirrored the shame of the speaker. Yet weak is not always framed this way. In moments of care, the same word can soothe. It's okay to feel weak. Rest. Here the tone is soft, the eyes compassionate. The body mirrors relief. Weakness becomes not a deficiency, but humanity. This is the paradox of mimicry. The word is the same. The register transforms everything. Most of us internalize the first register more strongly. Weak as failure. But through conscious mimicry, we can reclaim it. By echoing the word in softer, kinder registers, we inscribe new meanings. Weakness becomes vulnerability, and vulnerability becomes strength. Case study, nice versus kind. Another revealing example is nice. Children are often told, be nice. The word is usually delivered with a subtle edge, a demand to suppress conflict, to smooth over discomfort, to comply. Nice becomes a social script, an armor of acceptability. But contrast this with kind. When someone says, be kind, the register is different. Kindness implies depth, sincerity, and authenticity. Nice is a mimicry of social expectation. Kindness is a mimicry of genuine care. Both words are learned through tone, not just definition. Nice is often echoed with tightness. Kind is echoed with warmth. To distinguish between them is to distinguish between scripts we mirror for approval and echoes we choose for integrity. Healing through poetic mimicry. One of the oldest forms of healing mimicry is poetry. When we recite a poem aloud, we borrow its rhythm, its cadence, its breath. We do not invent the words, but by echoing them, we make them ours. A poem about grief can help us feel less alone. A poem about courage can seed new states of being. This is mimicry, not as erasure, but as reclamation. The poet gives us words we can echo until they live in our own lexicon. Role play and rehearsal. Another healing form of mimicry is role play. In therapy, clients rehearse conversations they fear. They echo possible phrases. That hurt me. No, I need space. The therapist mirrors back, shifting tone, showing alternative registers. This is linguistic mimicry as preparation. By echoing new phrases in safe contexts, the body learns to carry them with strength. When the real conversation comes, the lexicon is already expanded. Chants, songs, and solidarity collective mimicry has always been a tool of resilience. In chants, we shall overcome. In protests, whose streets? Our streets. In rituals, hymns, psalms, call and response prayers. These are echoes that bind communities, not through semantics alone, but through rhythm and resonance. Mimicry here is solidarity, proof that language heals most powerfully when spoken together. Rewriting registers. The beauty of mimicry is that registers can change. We may inherit weakness as an insult. We may inherit nice as compliance. But through conscious repetition, we can reframe them. We can whisper weakly as softness. We can sing weak as honesty. We can reclaim nice by anchoring it to kindness, or discard it entirely. Mimicry, once unconscious, becomes deliberate. The echoes in our lexicon shift from wounds to tools. Personal reflection. I remember when I was once called weak. It wasn't meant kindly. The tone was mocking, the context competitive. My body learned to stiffen at the word. Weakness became shame. But later in life, I heard the word differently. Someone said to me, it's okay to feel weak. It doesn't make you less. It makes you human. The same word, the same syllables, but a completely different register. This time my body softened, my breath deepened. That moment taught me something about mimicry. Words are not fixed. They carry the echoes of the registers we first heard them in, but they are also open to renewal. Now, when I hear weak, I try to echo the compassionate register, not the mocking one. I say to myself, yes, I can feel weak at times, and that too is strength because of the recognition. It takes strength to notice your weaknesses and weakness, to notice your strengths. The same has been true with nice. As a child, nice meant smoothing myself down to fit in. It meant hiding parts of myself. But kind was something else. Kindness was expansive, real-rooted. These two words taught me how mimicry shapes values. One word chained me, the other freed me. Reflection prompt. Think of a word you first learned in a painful register. Perhaps it was weak, nice, stupid, or selfish. Whose tone did you mirror? What did your body do when you first heard it? Now imagine saying the same word in a different register. Softer, kinder, compassionate. How does your body respond? This is mimicry as medicine, microactivity. Choose your echo 1. Write down one word that carries heaviness for you. 2. Say it aloud in the register you first learned it. Notice your body's response. 3. Now repeat it in 3 new registers. Whisper, playful exaggeration, compassionate warmth. 4. Decide which register you want to echo in your lexicon. This simple act shows that mimicry is not destiny. It is a choice. We've seen mimicry's healing face, how repetition, poetry, roleplay, and reframing can transform the lexicon. We've seen that words like weak or nice are not fixed. They are mirrors waiting to be re-angled. But mimicry is also the mechanism by which entire cultures spread. The registers we echo are not only personal but collective. In the next part, we'll return to the Mirror-Linguistic Hypothesis, expanding it to show how mimicry is the very engine of linguistic culture. The hypothesis restated the Mirror-Linguistic Hypothesis, as I propose it here, begins with a simple premise. Language is not only learned through definitions, but through mirrors. Words are inscribed into us not just by their semantics, but by the nervous system states we inherit when they are spoken. Every word we carry is therefore double-layered: lexical meaning, the dictionary definition; mirrored register, the tone, face, body, and emotion of its delivery. This second layer is often more powerful than the first. Our somatic lexicon is built less by what words mean than by how words were mirrored to us. Mimicry as the engine mimicry is the mechanism by which the mirror-linguistic hypothesis comes alive. A caregiver says, "Be nice." The child mirrors not only the phrase, but the tension in the caregiver's voice. Nice becomes compliance. A coach says, "Don't be weak." The child mirrors the mocking register. Weak becomes shame. A community leader says, "Stay home to save lives." Citizens mirror the rhythm, the collective seriousness. The phrase becomes law without needing a law. This is how words spread, not as abstract definitions, but as mirrored emotional states. Mimicry is the seed, the hypothesis is the field. The lexicon as cultural mirror, consider the word patriot. In some contexts, it is spoken with reverence, mirrored as honor, loyalty, pride. In others, it is spoken with suspicion, mirrored as nationalism, extremism. The dictionary definition, one who loves their country, is stable, but the mirrored registers diverge wildly. This explains why debates over words often go nowhere. People are not arguing over semantics. They are defending their mirrored lexicons. The weaponization of labels, the hypothesis, also clarifies why labels become weapons. The phrase conspiracy theorist is a perfect case. Semantically, it is no different from a political theorist or a scientific theorist, but its mirrored register has been cultivated, ridiculed, dismissed, and excluded. Through repetition in media, schools, and conversations, the mocking register becomes contagious. People mirror it until the phrase carries stigma, regardless of its literal meaning. Here, mimicry becomes manipulation. The body mirrors scorn long before the mind checks definitions, reframing through conscious echo. But if mimicry creates wounds, it can also heal them. When we consciously echo words in new registers, we rewrite the somatic lexicon. Weak becomes softness, nice becomes kindness. Even patriotism can be reframed, not as blind loyalty, but as care for one's community. The mirror-linguistic hypothesis suggests that healing is not simply cognitive reframing, but register reframing. By changing the mirror we echo, we change the meaning we carry. Generational transmission language is not only individual, but generational. A parent who learned weakness as shame may unconsciously pass on the same register to their child. Unless awareness interrupts, the echo continues. This is why words carry such longevity. They are not passed down as dictionary entries, but as nervous system states. Mimicry transmits trauma as much as vocabulary, yet awareness can also transmit healing. A parent who reframes weakness as vulnerability can pass on a softer register. The same word becomes a different inheritance. The cultural scale. On a cultural level, the hypothesis explains how slogans, catchphrases, and buzzwords spread. Words like diverse, freedom, and equality gain traction, not simply because of semantics, but because of their mirrored registers in public discourse. Spoken with reverence, diverse mirrors of inclusion. Spoken cynically, diverse mirrors tokenism. Spoken bureaucratically, diverse mirrors compliance. Every register inscribes a different entry in the somatic lexicon of culture. Reflection prompt: think of a word that feels charged to you. Patriot, weak, nice, or conspiracy theorist. Now ask, what register did you first mirror with it? Whose tone does it still carry in your body? And then ask, what new register could you consciously echo to reframe it? Microactivity, revoicing the word 1. Choose a word you feel ambivalent about. 2. Say it aloud in the register you first learned. Notice your body's reaction. 3. Now say it in 3 alternative registers: compassionate, playful, reverent. 4. Notice which one you want to carry forward. This is the mirror-linguistic hypothesis in practice. Remirroring as recoding. Closing the hypothesis. The mirror-linguistic hypothesis does not deny semantics or grammar. It expands them. It argues that meaning is never only in definitions, it is in mirrors. Every word we know is layered with the nervous system states of those who spoke it to us, and those we chose to echo. Mimicry is not accidental. It is the engine of transmission. Through it, words become worlds, inherited, reframed, reclaimed. The task of conscious living, then, is not to escape mimicry, but to choose our mirrors. As we come to the close of this exploration into mirror neurons and mimicry, it's worth pausing to feel the depth of what we've uncovered. We began with the biology of echo, the way our nervous systems respond before our minds interpret, the subtle mirroring of tone and gesture that gives language its living pulse. We then saw how mimicry isn't just a mechanism of speech acquisition, but a foundation for culture, identity, and belonging. We traced its shadows, the ways slogans, labels, and group pressures bend it toward control. And we turned the lens toward healing, where mimicry becomes conscious, creative, even liberating. But perhaps the most radical step was in articulating the mirror-linguistic hypothesis, the claim that every word carries not only lexical meaning, but mirrored registers, emotional imprints from those who first spoke it into us. This double-layered nature of language explains why the same word can contract or expand us, depending on the register we inherited, and why reframing registers may be as powerful as redefining terms. Now, as we draw together the strands of this episode, I want to linger in reflection, both personal and cultural, before turning toward the practical ways this understanding can be carried forward. The journey began with science. Mirror neurons, discovered in the 1990s, showed us that humans are wired not just to observe, but to feel with. To see a gesture is to prime the body to make it. To hear tone is to feel its shadow in the nervous system. Language is therefore not simply processed as code, it is embodied resonance. From there, we looked at how mimicry births language itself. Babies babble by echo, shaping their mouths around the rhythms they hear. Children learn accents not through grammar charts, but through living among speakers whose registers they absorb. The first lexicon is not written in books, but in bodies. Part 3 showed us that mimicry reaches beyond sounds into emotions. Words like passive or weak are never neutral. They arrive clothed in registers that shape how they live inside us. For some, passivity becomes shame. For others, relief. For some, weakness is mockery. For others, compassion. This duality is not captured in dictionaries, but it is etched into the somatic lexicon. Part 4 revealed mimicry's darker side. Chants at rallies, labels in media, and schoolyard taunts all rely on mirroring to enforce conformity. To echo is to belong, to resist is to risk exclusion. Words like conspiracy theorist or terrorist show how mimicry enforces stigma, silencing voices without needing debate. But then we turned toward the possibility of healing. Part 5 gave us mimicry as reclamation. Repeating affirmations, reciting poems, rehearsing new conversations. Here, mimicry does not erase identity, it strengthens it. Through deliberate echo, words can be reframed, wounds rewritten, and lexicons expanded. The examples of weak and nice versus kind showed how conscious mirroring can shift meaning from shame to humanity, from compliance to sincerity. Finally, the hypothesis brought these threads together. Mimicry is not just developmental or cultural, it is the engine by which registers are transmitted. To understand language is to understand that every word carries not just what it means, but how it was first mirrored. Personal reflection: I cannot separate these ideas from my own story. As a child, I was at times called too passive and other times too aggressive, not as a neutral descriptor, but as a criticism. Teachers side the word with disappointment. Classmates threw it as a dismissal. My nervous system learned to contract at the words before I could even process their meanings. Yet at home, there were moments where the same word was softened. Sometimes silence was seen as composure. Sometimes stillness was praised as thoughtfulness. The same syllables, but two entirely different mirrors. This dual inheritance shaped me deeply. I became cautious, observant. I often listened before I spoke, but it also left me with a lingering shame, as if stillness was a deficiency, as if restraint was weakness. Only much later did I begin to reframe. To say to myself, passivity can be wisdom, silence can be a gift, weakness can be humanity. Language has always fascinated me because of this. Growing up bilingual, With Italian and English shaping my identity, I could feel how words carried not just definitions, but entire climates. Later, when I studied Spanish and Swedish, I felt again the subtle difference, how some languages breathe more rhythm into emotion, while others carry sharpness in precision. Each tongue offered not only vocabulary, but atmosphere. My writing and speaking are continuations of this journey. The Inversiverse showed me how language builds cages of perception. The body nose revealed how words inscribe themselves in flesh. My inner child was broken traced how the earliest echoes of parental voices still live within us. And unfiltered human on the fringe gave space for emotions that society tells us to mute. What I see now is that all of these threads are linguistic. Each is a study of mirrors, and the Mirror-Linguistic Hypothesis is the bridge that ties them. Cultural and political reflections words not only shape individuals, they shape nations. Consider slogans, stay home to save lives. On the surface, simple semantics. But in practice, it carried registers of urgency, morality, even shame. To resist it was to risk exclusion. Mimicry amplified it until it became law without requiring constant enforcement, or labels like patriot, revered in one context, distrusted in another. The semantic definition is stable, one who loves their country. But the mirrored registers diverge so widely that debates over the word rarely touch meaning at all. They are contests over registers. Conspiracy theorists shows the same pattern. A phrase that should mean one who theorizes about conspiracies is pragmatically used as ridicule. The mirrored register enforces conformity, laugh, dismiss, exclude. This shows how power operates not only through semantics, but through mimicry. Whoever shapes the register of a word shapes its social force. And in the digital era, mimicry multiplies. Memes, hashtags, and viral phrases are linguistic mirrors that spread faster than thought. The register, ironic, sarcastic, outraged, matters more than the words themselves. We often think debates are about definitions, but they are battles over registers, over which mirror becomes dominant. How then do we integrate this? It begins with noticing. Reflection prompt. Which words in your lexicon still carry registers you did not choose? Whose tone lives in your mouth when you speak them? Activity. Take one word, maybe weak, nice, normal, patriot. Say it aloud in the register you first learned. Notice your body's response. Now say it in 3 new registers: compassionate, playful, reverent. Notice which one you want to carry forward. This is mimicry as medicine. By consciously choosing what we echo, we recode our lexicon. Another practice is group echo. Reciting poetry, affirmations, or mantras as in shared rhythm creates solidarity and reinscribes registers. What was once isolating can become communal. And journaling can help trace the evolution of a word. Write how you first heard it as a child, how it was used in adolescence, and how you use it now. Notice how registers shift across time. These practices are small, but they matter, because every shift in register is a shift in how words live inside us. Hypothesis expansion into the future. The mirror-linguistic hypothesis has implications beyond this episode. It helps us understand propaganda, stigma, and trauma, but it also raises questions about the future. If AI begins to mimic human language, does it also inherit registers? Will an AI that mirrors sarcasm become cynical? Will one that mirrors reverence become devotional? If registers are the hidden half of meaning, then synthetic speech is not neutral either. It also prepares us for the next stage of Arc 1. If mimicry is how words enter us, then semantics and pragmatics are how they take shape between us. Semantics explores meaning, pragmatics explores using context, and both become more vivid when we see that meaning is never only in symbols, but in mirrors. As we step out of this exploration, the invitation is simple: to notice the mirrors, to ask whose tone we are carrying when we speak, and to choose consciously which echoes to continue. To see language not only as a dictionary, but as an atmosphere, not only as a symbol, but as a spell. And as we move forward, the natural next step is to ask, if mimicry is how words enter us, what happens once they're spoken into the world between us? This takes us into semantics, pragmatics, and beyond, the study of how words shift depending on the frames they're placed in, the intentions behind them, and the contexts that shape their power. Until next time, stay curious, stay awake to your own language, and let your words be bridges, carrying you from tension into truth. You've been listening to the Linguaverse, James Miller.